what is it? The Epson printer with the eco tanks. Much cheaper to operate than HP printers.
Ah,
What is it? The Epson printer with the eco tanks.
right.
Much cheaper to operate than HP print.
There we go.
I think I get an echo.
Yeah, there was temporarily very long delay because I just went live on YouTube. So that's me. We should be live. I've got my YouTube simple up.
Yep, so do I. It says we're live, so
Okay, good. Don't know what's up. Oh, we've got Collins AI, which I will approve. Oh, and no,
Hello, Becky.
How are you, Leslie? Good to see your
Good.
face.
you
Yeah,
must
that
have a new camera, huh?
You're very clear and crisp. I like it.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Spoke too soon.
I was gonna say, did we freeze or did he freeze?
that was an experience. You froze.
Oh,
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, but the yeah, the other camera that I had was turns out it was 15 years old.
oh, it had given you a lot of life, didn't it?
It gave me a lot of life, but boy, it did wonk out at the end.
I was
I
gonna say,
think what happened is I put a new video card, a new even higher end video card into my computer in the summer, and I think it burned it out.
Mm.
oh wow.
But then to get the cables and everything else, it was it was a $500 experience.
Yeah, I'm looking at something like that too.
Hi, Patty.
Hi,
Hello, Patty.
welcome, Leslie. It's good to see you, Tim and Becky, Blair.
Likewise.
These darn computers, you can't live without them.
No
So
kidding.
just for y'all, your knowledge, Tim and Becky and Blair, I don't have a phone right now, so I have no way to communicate with you guys that way.
Ah,
So I will plan on being at the meeting tomorrow night, but um, I'm not ignoring anyone. I just don't have a phone right now. So
oh, dokie.
so email communication.
yeah, email. I just have to remember to look at it.
No.
So,
I hear you on that.
but yeah, that's where we are right now. So
Okay.
Oh, Jeremy's here. Great. Good. Joining. And we are live, by the way. So, hey, everybody on YouTube, we are live. We are just collecting people, so may take a moment or two for everybody to get into the Blair Dunkley experience. So just bear with us, and we shall be starting momentarily. Generally, we wait for Brent.
I was
And
going to say we do wait for Brent, and he's not quite here yet.
yeah, no, and Shane
Unusual.
Daniels just showed up. So, hey, Shane, and
Oh,
All right.
Shane, so glad you're
yes,
here.
exactly.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. We're just waiting on Brent, sort of. It's historical. Jane just popped in, so that's awesome. By the way, I have 36 people potentially coming into the Blair Dunkley experience, none of them in the VIP. So I'm
You say I
very,
sent 2 more your way today, so
oh wow, great. So Leslie was the first one in for the VIP, actually. So thank you, Leslie. Appreciate that.
Welcome. Looking forward to it.
Likewise, I am too. So that should be fun.
Oh, Shane, I'm so glad Christy is watching us on YouTube. So welcome,
Yay.
Christy. We
Oh,
really
Christy.
miss you. We miss your input. We miss your presence.
Yes. I didn't get a chance to say hi to Jane.
Jane and Shane and
Welcome,
Jeremy.
Jane and Jeremy.
Yep. Hey, Jane.
Hello.
Let's see you
Hello,
here.
Jeremy. Hello, Jane.
Jeremy, I'm confused with your chat that you'll be here until 9 when it's
I
9:04.
meant 10. I thought you could put that together. I'll correct
Oh,
it for
I'm
you.
sorry. I did not want to make assumptions.
So that's in an hour.
Yes.
Okay. In that case, okay. I need to move this. Hopefully I can. Good. I can put that
Do we want to
there.
go ahead and start off with just a few announcements here, Blair?
Yes, I think we should.
Okay. So before we officially kick things off tonight, just wanted to take a minute and let everybody know we got some exciting things coming up here over the next, let's see, over the next month and a half. So, Blair is doing his Mind Model Challenge, which is January 20th through the 24th.
Technically, it's not a mind. I know it's down there as Mind Model Challenge, but it should be a 5-day business challenge because that's what I'm going to be focusing on.
Okay.
And
So,
just it is about mind models, but it's mind models for business and transforming your life. That's what it's all about.
okay. And that challenge is again coming up January 20th through the 24th. That general session will be from 10 a.m. Mountain or noon Eastern. And that's going for about an hour. There's also, you can sign up and do the VIP, which is going just directly the hour after from 11 a.m. Mountain or 1 p.m. Eastern, also for another hour. And VIP, you're getting a lot more goods, a lot more personal interaction, and there's just a lot more opportunity to learn there with the VIP. So highly recommend that. And then, so that is an opportunity for everybody to have 2 hours worth of coaching with Blair. And the 5-day business challenge link has actually just been put in the comments here on the Zoom. Do we have that available for those on YouTube, Blair?
I'm not quite sure how to do that, but I will work at doing that.
Okay.
So if you're on YouTube and you're interested,
Yeah.
then reach out to Blair at blair@rewiringthemind.com and you can get the information there for a quick workaround.
And then also in February, we have our mind model, our first mind model for 25. We have our first mind model coach training coming up, and that will be February 12th through the 15th. And then also the 26th. So the second half of it is the 26th of February through the 1st of March. And then directly following after that will be the IBC, which is Igniting the Buying Conversation. That will be March 12th through the 14th and 19th through the 21st. So this is an opportunity to become My Model Coach certified and to take a really deep dive into mind models and to become a certified coach, as well as with the IBC, the Igniting the Buying Conversation. You have an opportunity to really learn how to have a conversation with people, not if you're, have a business around sales or something like that. This is a buying conversation. This is how to be more effective in those business situations. And so I've been through both My Model Coach and IBC. It is amazing to learn this information. So that is coming up in February to March. And then also a buying conversation. This is how to be more effective in those business situations. And so I've been through both My Model Coach and IBC. It is amazing to learn this information. So that is coming up in February to March.
And
That's
then
good.
also mind conversation. This is how to be more effective
What?
in those business situations. And so
I
I've been through
apologize,
both my model
guys.
coach
I
and
am not an
IBC.
echo
It
here,
is amazing
I
to
don't
learn this
love
information. So that is coming up
Wow.
in February to March. And then also mind conversation. This is how to be more effective
What?
in
Oh, I
those
think
business
coming from Jane.
situations.
Jane-
And so
Jane,
I
I've been
apologize,
through both my
guys.
model coach
I
and
am not
IBC. It is amazing to learn.
That's
this
why, because
information. So
Jane
that
has her
is
audio
coming up
on.
Yeah,
in,
okay.
February.
There we
There we
go.
go.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
it was worth
I
repeating.
was thinking it was me for a second. I was hunting all my stuff. And thank you, Jeremy, for noticing that. That's huge.
Well, I want to give credit to Tim as well, because he said it as well.
Oh, sorry. I just, whatever. I was in panic mode here. Sorry.
It's okay.
Thinking I screwed up big time. Anyway.
No, great stuff. Worth the repeat. So the only other
Yeah,
thing that I
just put
wanted
it
to-
on loop. That's it.
That's right. The other thing I wanted to shout out real quick is Blair's Insider's Notes. This is an opportunity to get the study guide from our every Tuesday night, our Blair Dunkley experience, and an opportunity to get the notes from the things that we're talking about. It goes deeper into the mind models that we're discussing live on the Blair Dunkley experience. And one of the best ways to learn is to actually have the notes, to study them, to look through them. And it goes a lot more in depth a lot of times than the conversation that we're able to get into on the BDE within our short time frame. So I highly recommend
Also,
notes.
if I might,
Yep.
27, like 327, the new one, has one extra bonus piece that is related but not going to be discussed here because you guys don't even know what that bonus piece is. And 328, because we did 2 weeks in a row here due to the training that I'm offering, that actually has 4 bonus chunks in it. So it'll be, look forward to that. It's just extra stuff that I thought I'd throw together and give you guys perspective on and that sort of stuff. Anyway.
Excellent. And so, yeah, if you're interested in getting those insider notes, again, they're $25 a month or $300 a year. And we've thrown the link in the comments. If you're on YouTube, just reach out to Blair at Rewiring the Mind, and he can get you the information for that. So I think with that, we are ready to officially kick off tonight.
Welcome, Brent. Brent's here. We
Is
can
Brent?
officially
Oh,
get
is
started.
Brent
Here we can now start.
officially start. So, Patty, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks. So, officially welcome to the 327th episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience, where we discuss mind models. On this program, we talk about mind models and their simple thought frameworks to help us put names and labels to how we think. When we understand how we think, we can learn to think more effectively and create the identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable behaviors needed to finally break out of stuck states. Mind models have been extensively tested and proven to be 80% effective versus mindset, which is only 1% effective. Mind model skills and behaviors enable people to transform their lives intentionally. Your host for this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of Mind Models. I, Patty, am your co-host along with Tim and Becky, who are certified mind model coaches as well. So the BDE is Blair's free gift to you and an opportunity to learn, experience, and practice mind models in a safe real-world environment. Personally, mind models have helped me overcome more than a decade of depression. They have positively impacted my life in every area, including my relationship with myself. So we welcome you tonight and look forward to getting to know you better. Tim, I'll kick it back to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Patty. And tonight, so this is part 2 of our New Year effectiveness with mind models. And tonight, wanted to take a deeper dive into, sounds like last week, we actually missed last week, but it sounded like there was a great conversation around attempt versus try, and some real great stuff came out of that. Tonight, we want to take a deeper dive into accepting what is. And with acceptance is one of those things that I think is often misunderstood by a lot of people. And so we want to take a really deep dive and a look at acceptance and what that is, especially coming into this new year. And I want to toss a question out to the group. Is there something in your life that is hindering you from moving forward and is out of your control? Throw that out to the group. Is there anybody who like to share? Or do I get to pick on somebody?
Full disclosure, we do fall on people, but it's out of love.
That's right.
Yeah. Personally, I like picking on people.
Right.
I remember the first time we did Blair Dunkley experiences, and it was like, do I get on? Because if I do, Blair's going to call on me. I was like sitting on my hands.
You unmuted, Shane. Did you have something to share?
Can you ask the question again?
You bet. Is there something in your life that is hindering forward movement and is out of your control?
I volunteer as tribute.
All right.
I got COVID back in December and I am still not 100% healthy. It's just one thing after another. So, and just when I think, okay, I'm healthy, I think I'm good, and then bam, it's something new. So it's just been, I mean, I put into the chat the weather. The weather isn't helping, but it is cold and COVID season.
Yeah.
So it's just been, and there is a national, I found this out from the doctors last week, a national, I guess I'll call it the intestinal flu. It's where you got that viral thing in your guts, and it's nationwide, and it's been really tough to kick. And so I haven't been eating, so I have no energy because I haven't been eating. So it's, you can hear the why happening here, but it's also what's happening. And
screen.
huh?
I'm writing. I'm not
Oh.
focusing.
Okay.
No, no worries, Shane.
So anyway, so yeah, sometimes it's health issues.
Yeah. Personally, I can jump on board with health issues. And, it's not an easy thing, but, it's better to manage yourself mentally than not. In spite of health issues. So I have my thumb braces or whatever it is on my hands because, yeah, you were looking, Jane, there you go. They're just little things there because my thumb joints are getting sore. And they're not exactly sprained, but it's probably arthritis again.
I
Or
was going to say with the cold weather, you guys are even colder than we are, and it's
yeah.
freaking cold right now. I mean, we're in the single digits, so you must be in the minuses, which can't help your arthritis at all.
Well, for you, it would be, it's below, let's put it this way, it's below zero, but it's not that bad, relatively speaking. We're not having like -20, which would be bad. It's only, actually it's +4. Here, it's crazy warm for us, but the roads are terrible. Anyway, my point being is that this stuff here is stuff, I gotta go, and I was talking with, again, I have a client on Tuesday, and we were talking about his situations. And one of the things that he was talking about was literally being able to accept what's going on, but there's something in your life that is hindering from moving forward and is out of control or not in your control. I'm not in control of my hips, sort of. I'm in a line, or I'm in a waiting list in line to get new hips, but that's not in my control. It's just, you just sit back and you wait, and that's it. Exercise is helping a whole lot, though, and I know that, And so just doing my exercises the best I can. And I did my full 10 minutes on my walking pad right beside me. So I can do that every single day. And I did my squats and my toe touches and my push-ups and everything else. I do what I can, but then you can't control it. And you can influence, but that's it.
Yeah, and I love that you share that perspective, Blair, because health issues affect us all differently at different seasons in our lives. And those are things
Yeah.
that just happen, right? They come up and we don't necessarily, none of us have the control of the weather or how our body specifically reacts or doesn't react to things that we're doing. But it's
Mhm.
also true in business and relationships. Just about every facet of our lives has something, right, that is outside of our control that may or may not be impacting the movement that we want. One of the things that I do is I actually work with entrepreneurs and coach them, and I had a lot of conversations today on this exact thing. Like, I'm not where I want to be in my business. Okay, where do you want to be? And they do a description of what that is, and then we reverse engineer it and ask, okay, what parts can you actually own? What parts of this are actually yours to be able to take action on and influence? To your point, Blair, like I want to
Yeah.
make $1,000 a year. That's great. What's your pathway towards that? And what part can you actually control? Even within, we do a lot of like systems and funnels, those kinds of things. So I want people to comment on social media. I want people to opt into my funnel. That is all their behaviors. Like whether they comment
Yeah.
on your thing, whether they opt into your thing, that's not, you can't control that. However, how you show up, the way you communicate your message can influence them sufficiently to do the behavior that you're wanting them to, thus the illusion of control, but really it's about the influence. And
Right.
it's a form of I don't know how many of you guys have ever felt overwhelmed or you feel that emotional boil up when things aren't going the way that you want in your world. Anybody, or is that just me? Jane raises her hand. Okay. How many times does it feel like it's just mushroom clouds? It just seems so complicated. My gosh, it shouldn't be so complicated to get this thing that I want or to get feeling better. Anybody else ever felt that way, or is that just me? All right, Patty's right ahead. Love it. Okay. And so one of the things to take a look at, especially as it relates to feeling those feelings of I'm dealing with something I can't control, but I want to because I want this outcome, is to kind of slow it down a little bit and identify what is true about the situation. Sometimes when we get lost in the emotion, we tend to feel as if things are way too complicated and then it feeds the story and it feeds the emotion. But really, it's not so much necessarily that it's complicated as there's different facets. It's complex. There's different segments. So for Blair, he's got his hips, he's got his thumbs. Okay, he just got over a bunch of other stuff. It could feel very like his health challenges could be perceived as complicated. There's complication after complication after complication. But if you reverse engineer it and think about it, each one of those things are a facet. It's complex. His thumbs have its role. His hips has a role. And so really being able to kind of bring it down to identify the different components can help bring that overwhelm, that sense of overwhelm and complication, and simplify it into the complex, maybe, because there's multiple facets, but it's more manageable because you've identified those different pieces.
And with that identification of those different pieces, this brings it back to that acceptance, where acceptance is simply, and where I mentioned earlier that acceptance is often misunderstood, or a lot of people have a lack of understanding around what acceptance actually is. They think that if they're accepting something, they have to agree with it. If they're accepting something, they have to, on some level, like or it's okay what is going on. The misconception about acceptance is it's just simply an acknowledgement of what is. And so as my wife was just mentioning with the complex, when you break things down and you start looking at those individual pieces of a complex you break it down to those individual pieces and you can look at what is with each one of them, Blair's thumbs, Blair's hips, and then you can really get into accepting just truly what is. Okay, this is what's going on. Yes, Jane, go ahead.
So I can give a great example of that
Okay.
in that um, we've moved our family between states many times. It feels like it's like every other year, but it's not. But there's so many moving pieces that goes into the whole system. And when I was trying to keep it all in my head, I was a stressed out mess. And when this concept of it being complicated versus complex, and I give a shout out to John, who's not on our show anymore, but he says, Jane, break it down into those segments, as you were saying. And so I took a big whiteboard and I split it into 4 or 5 columns, and I put the different sections. Prepping the house, get it ready for sale. Prepping my husband, getting him up there in temporary housing. Prepping our house that we are thinking of moving into. Prepping and looking for a house in case we end up buying a new house. And and then the physical move, the actual physical move. So once I split it into the different categories, a huge amount of weight was just flowed right off of me, because I was then able to, instead of trying to keep it all up here and going nuts over it and trying to keep track of all the pieces, I had someplace to go that I could say what. And then the pieces fell into place, and I could get the satisfaction of saying, okay, the house is ready to go on the market. We've done this part. It's now, who picked out the real estate agent, all the things that come under that section happened, and so yeah, I was able to not just accept the fact that, oh, we have to move again, but was able to process through it because I had mind models to do that. I was able to evaluate and do that section, evaluate it, and start judging myself that I have all this stuff to do and I can't get it all done in the amount of time that I have to do it. I was able to. So that part was fine. Now the unpacking, now that we're here, is still going on, because that's a whole nother category that
Yep.
I don't have a deadline on.
Well, and that's when, and that's where, if we understand these mind models and these concepts, moving into a new year, that's what we want to focus on here, is how to be more effective with, breaking these things down, as you mentioned. And thank you, Jane, for sharing that, because that is a great example of, taking this overwhelm, taking things that are so complicated and breaking it down to they may be complex, but you can break them down to their individual parts and pieces. And then at that point, you truly can accept what is, and what you can influence, what's outside of your control. Within these, you can recognize these pieces, and then you have a process at that point to move forward. And the great thing about acceptance is we don't have to love everything that is going on, but if you can simply accept what is and recognize what is, then you can create that process to move forward.
I like what you said, though. By me getting everything out in black and white, and red, blue, and green, and yellow, I was able to identify what is within my control, what can I delegate out, and what can I not control. And so that, oh, now I just need to apply that to other parts of my life.
Generally, I found the term, I didn't coin it, but I was meant a term was mentioned to me, and it was just called chunking it down. And people say break it down, break it down, break it down. I did a lot of breaking down in business, but when I realized if I chunk it down, it's breaking it down can cause me, I'll just speak for myself, it caused me to look for every detail. And so I was breaking it down, but I was overwhelming myself with all the detail. But if I got it into, like you just said there, Jane, the chunks of information, like 4 or 5 large chunks of information, and started dealing with that, and then subgrouping those chunks into smaller chunks. When I got to the point of having those smaller chunks, that's when I could dive into the detail. But before that, everything was overwhelming for me. It was too big. I had to go 2 layers of chunks down before I could get it to a point where I could get control of it in my mind. Just sharing.
What you just shared, Blair, and I'm curious who else has experienced this as well. When I've had a problem or perception of a problem that has gone on for a significant amount of time, it can feel like I've tried everything under the sun and it doesn't matter what I do, it's just not going to change. Anybody else had that narrative in their head? I see some nods. Okay. I was gonna say sometimes I feel like I get on here and I'm like all the dark secrets of like all the crazy in Becky's head. But the point that I wanted to bring up with this is when you're working on resolution of something that you've attempted multiple times, sometimes you can fall into that place of maybe a mislabel of acceptance and simply just kind of fall into that place of I'm just resigned to this is my fate. This is just how it's gonna be. It doesn't matter what I do, how much I try, I can't do anything about this. Anybody else resonate with that?
Mhm.
Nods? Okay. So let's talk about what's the difference between acceptance and resignation. What do you think? What's the difference between being resigned to something or accepting something for what it is? Jeremy, what do you think? Oh, or Brent? Brent and then Jeremy, or Jeremy then Brent?
Jeremy, if you have something, if you want to go right ahead.
Well, did you come off mute because you wanted to answer the question?
Yeah, I was gonna participate, but
Yeah, I think you predated me. I have an answer, but I think
No.
you get the photo finish
Well,
because
let's go
you
with
were
Brent.
already off mute.
Okay.
Let's go with
All right, we'll see.
Brent.
Well, yeah, and then we'll see if we got something that's similar or a little different. So acceptance and resignation. Resignation is almost as if you're like giving up, not accepting what is. There's a bit of judgment there. So you're in a state of why, and not a state of evaluation or figuring out. So it's just, I mean, I remember going over this a few weeks ago, or not a few weeks, but quite some time ago. So I don't have all the details, but that's the gist I get is it's more of a giving up and a judgment piece on oneself, and then accepting what is just what is, and you're able to then evaluate and move forward. What's the next step? So resignation is the opposite of that. You're not even considering evaluating of what the individual pieces are and the situation and others and going forward. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Brent. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna just note that Brent has the institutional knowledge of understanding the mind models, but and not but sorry, and I'll just go with my understanding of etymology and connotation because resignation by definition has a negative connotation. You resign something, you back away from something on poor or less than great terms. So what I would be resigned to do would not be something that I'd accepted. It'd be something that I just kind of defer to, whereas acceptance has almost spiritual connotations at times. So I would suggest that if I accept something, I've integrated and interpreted it into my life in a way where I can appreciate the weighing out of it, maybe the pros and cons of it, and I've faced it, I've come to it head on, I would say.
I love that distinction and the way you communicated it. It makes me think of the line in the Serenity Prayer. Like I can appreciate whatever it is. I'm gonna pop that in the chat. So accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So what I got from what you just shared, Jeremy, is what can I appreciate in this? What can I learn from this? I have this thing, but how can I use it instead of being resigned and closing the door on it? That judgment that Brent was talking about. This is a very powerful thing because when we're faced with emotions and we're faced with things that are outside of our control that we may want to control because we want the outcome, it's very easy to be hit with the emotions and react. But the knowledge of the mind models and the understanding of how to interface with that and the awareness of like how do you literally accept things as they are. Okay, name and label, describe your feelings about them, identify what is your role in that, what can you control, what is others or situations. It literally gives you the power to navigate that, and your speed of recovery of those emotions allows you to get utility, which is incredible because it's in every facet: health challenges, business, relationships, and prevents the downward spiral, excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied, of where some people might slide into, which is when they have chronic or long lasting problems that they haven't found a solution for, sometimes they slide into apathy, right? And apathy is a very scary, dark place. Okay. And so, even for people who are potentially headed there or have experienced it before, the mind models actually provide a way out because of how you can literally utilize the frameworks and the structures to get traction, to create a state change, get yourself to do a state change to pull out of that. And so tonight we wanted to start off by talking about the difference between acceptance of what is, resignation, and apathy, because when we are experiencing change or transitioning into new things, we sometimes feel like life is spinning out of control and oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's too complicated and complex. I have no control, and the mushroom cloud starts going. But in 2025, we want to help you identify how to identify what you have control over, accept that, and get utility and forward movement in whatever area in your life you're feeling resistance.
And I love the way Brent and Jeremy both just described the acceptance versus resignation, because that you guys said it so much better than I did when it comes to that misunderstanding and that misconception about acceptance. Is acceptance truly is about that power and that possibility of just simply, this is what's going on, the information side of it, and what do I want to do about it? And that is where we have that, where power of choice comes in, and we truly move forward out of, if we're slipping into that apathetic place, that forward movement, that power and possibility is truly where we can gain that movement and get out of it. As my wife mentioned, that is where mind models can truly help us move forward.
So here's another question. So if we're talking about things that you can control, how can you accept what is and still take responsibility in the areas that seem a bit more challenging? I'll give you an example. When this guy and I get into an argument,
This guy?
this guy right here. Okay. So when this guy and I get in an argument, or maybe you're having a communication breakdown, and it doesn't matter what area, and you want an outcome, right? When we're fighting, I don't want to be fighting anymore. And there are times that I want to be right and have my way. However, it's not effective for either of us to be coming from the proving and positioning standpoint. So how do you accept the truth of the situation and get forward motion, take responsibility for your part without taking on the other person's stuff and vice versa? Thoughts?
I'm gonna pick on Shane. I'm curious, Shane, do you have any thoughts here? We you
Well,
you're a married man. I'm curious your thoughts here.
yeah, that's 30 years, 30 years together, four daughters that are now married, 5 grandkids on the ground, 2 on the way. That's why I'm bald. My wife and my 4 daughters. No, we never fight. No, communication obviously is very, very important in marriage. I am just a tidbit distracted. You guys posted this Serenity prayer that was actually on the back of my dad's card at his funeral. I mean, that's what he knew God. He knew. I pray that he knew where he was going. But I mean, that's just something that he could relate to. That things he cannot change, and the courage to change the things that he can. So that got me a little a little distracted there for a minute, but as far as communication within a marriage, I mean, it's got to be one of the main pillars of making a marriage work. Because if you can't communicate with each other and know where each other's at, it's not going to be a very fun marriage.
You don't subscribe to Happy Wife, Happy Life?
Well, I subscribe to the fact that it takes both of you to be happy. I mean, if one person sacrifices everything and make to just to make the other one happy, could be living a life of misery. So I think it's, happy life, happy life. So Christy and I, we strive to lift each other up each day. If there's some things that I can do to help her, and she obviously does a lot for me and our family. So people say it's 50-50 in marriage. I think it's 100-100. Both people got to give 100% of each other. Otherwise it don't work.
Agreed.
Love that.
Yes.
Yep.
Can I request that we ask the question again? Because
Yes.
I know that the question had a specific intention involved, right?
So the question is how do you accept what is and still take responsibility? So when you're in situations, I was using the example of Tim and I, because it takes two people to fight.
Yep.
Right? It takes two people to have a misunderstanding. One of them may or may not be resourceful and seeking for alignment and getting curious. And this is more than just relationships. That was just an example. But when you're faced with things that are outside your control, how do you accept what is and still take your responsibility within the situation? Does that help?
I
Jim?
want to influence the asking of that question a little bit
Okay.
with the construct of it can be between two parties, husband and wife, or family member, or business partners, or whatever. But it can be internal and your two selves, more or less, versions of yourself. And that's something to ponder as well. Like, are you beating yourself up unnecessarily? Are you overly critical because you're trying to take responsibility for what isn't your responsibility and make it happen? I mean, that's an impossible task. Are you accepting or are you deflecting what is?
This brings me back to one of the first, when I very first saw you, Blair, on stage. You were talking about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde within ourselves, and that concept of, are you being fair to yourself, or are you flip-flopping back and forth and beating yourself up and not? So maybe you can speak to that for just a moment.
Well, yeah, and I was digging into this earlier in this episode, and I was recognizing how important it is for us when we finally find a bit of balance, and it tends to be elusive and not permanent, but as we practice the mind model says we practice self-acceptance and accepting others as to what is, and we do it with ourselves and everything around us, the internal and the external. We learn a skill of being more proactive. In other words, we begin to influence others by just acceptance. And by just accepting where they're at, not agreeing with it, not disagreeing with it, just accepting it. In some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases, just doing that. But then, like within the serenity prayer and the courage to know the difference, I am working with a client, and he's going through a bunch of very serious stuff. And I wound up punting his butt around the block today. And he had seen other counselors and psychologists and coaches and this, that. And in fact, I think I mentioned to you guys before that his brother said, well, you've never seen Blair, you know, and what he does with the mind models. And I wound up giving him some very straight talk today. Now, during the wrap up, I said, on a scale to from 1 to 10, how would you rate today? And he said 15. And I went, and he said, well, I know it can't be because scale was just supposed to be from 1 to 10. But for me, the rare value, like the value and the rarity of being able to be called on my stuff, but not from the position of trying to be right or wrong, trying to get an advantage or not, just to go, what's reasonable? And reflecting that back to him on reasonableness was the thing that he hadn't had for a few years on this topic. That was the value of being able to hold myself. And I realized most days I'm able to realize where I am. And I'm going through a lot this last year of medical stuff, but I don't feel weighed down by it. It's an inconvenience because it is, but it's not a terrible thing. It just is. And being able to perceive it that way gives me access to myself differently, gives me access to actions that I wouldn't have taken otherwise. I would have put limiting beliefs. I would have put limitations on myself instead of opportunity.
And Blair, what you just said, you know, the way you see yourself. Can you talk a little bit to the identity? So when things happen and how we interface with it, how it can impact our sense of identity and that smushing. Blair?
Yes. Yeah. Well, somebody, well, I forget who it was exactly. I was on a different call and somebody was sort of listing off a bunch of medical things that I'd shared on in the group, and they were listing them off. And I knew they were talking about me, but to me, I just said, gee, that sounds like a really sick person. And I don't identify with that. I'm not, but I am. All true, all accurate. But because I don't identify with those are temporary situations and historical facts. You know, when you've had a cold, you've had the cold. When you're having the cold, as Jane is, she's going through it. It's a drag, it's a bummer. But you don't think back of all the 20 other colds you've had in your life. You just don't. You deal with this one and move through it. That's what we all do. And we do that all with our lives and our situations. And in business, the same thing. We move through it. We do the best we can with what we have. And this whole construct of doing our best and accepting what is powerful. Also, by the way, showing up. Just show up. See what happens. You can get no's, but I showed up today with a client that I was counting on a no, and they gave me a yes for another month. They want to stay on for another month. Paid in full, whereas they said they couldn't do that before. Well, somehow it was important enough for them to make it happen. So
I wanted to take a minute and check in with Leslie real quick. Leslie, you look deep in thought, sir. I'm curious what's coming up for you.
No, I'm just absorbing things that are being said tonight and finding it very powerful. Acceptance is accepting what is, what can I change, what I can't change. Relative to today, I had frustrating situation where technicalities were resolved. And a friend helped me through that. Mind models did come into play outside of that conversation before it happened. And I guess I was able to realize that I needed some external help, external validation. And I got it, and it was wonderful. And looking forward to tomorrow when I can get back into the situation and continue going forward. So, yeah, what I'm hearing tonight is just positive.
And thank you for
Very,
sharing.
very positive.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Leslie. That is, I loved what you shared as far as, a lot of times when we don't have it in ourselves, like we want something to change or we want to move forward, but we're not quite sure how. Looking to somebody else for that external help a lot of times can be the first step, reaching out to somebody else and just simply asking a question and touching base with somebody else. I've had to do that a lot in my life, moving forward. And I just, wanting something different, but not knowing where to start, a lot of times just reaching out to someone else for that help or just for the support, if nothing else, is extremely helpful. So I love that you shared that.
And it's a great illustration of accepting what is and where
Yeah.
you're within that and getting resourceful and testing. So awesome. Jeremy, you might check in with you, and how are you experiencing the conversation tonight?
So you and Tim weren't here last week, but I had stated that I'd gone back and I started it I didn't start it, but I essentially went from 300 and caught up to everything that I had, to present day. And then I appeared last week. And I also read your book, just so you know. But I one of the things that's coming to me is that I feel like I can understand what's being said, and there's like the interlocking pieces part that hasn't been happening yet. And like some examples are given and in that way, but I feel like I'm not quite, like, in other words, like acceptance. I understand the difference between acceptance and resignation. But I feel like acceptance and resignation are like two little hanging pieces of a mobile. And then there's the other parts of the mobile and what's on the top of the mobile. And, and I don't have the full construct, like when Blair did the water thing with the process and I want to remember the content. Yes. Like I remember we were joking around because he actually had his own glass of water that he was drinking from, and that was a third glass. And we were talking about how his hand that was holding the glass was also part of content. So there was a lot of life given to that, and that was a moment where I can say he's got a Stanley of all things. Oh my God.
Cheers, Blair.
Cheers.
Yeah. Oh, the fads, I'll tell you. But yeah, I guess because that's the thing, because to me that I'm easily distracted, and I work on that. And so when I came in and I was about like, Brent and I had walked through resignation versus acceptance, and I know Reinhold Niebuhr and the Serenity Prayer, and those are all like, footholds and whatever climbing terms I can't remember right now to understand the concepts, but I want to be more versed, and I'm not sure that I know exactly what the distance is that I haven't kind of created or achieved, however you want to put it.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask you a question, Jeremy?
Absolutely, please.
How do you perceive acceptance works in your world?
I'm very much uh a fan of acceptance. I think oh, come on, Shane, you're killing me. That's not even a Stanley. Why are you even showing that? That doesn't count.
The OG one.
Oh, it's no, you mean it was before the Visco girls and all
It's
the fads on the internet?
vintage.
This is the original Stanley. This is where the
Oh,
company
The
came
thermos
from.
That's the
I
OG.
thought Stanley was a tool company.
It was thermoses
No?
and lunchbox back in the industrial age, yeah, I think. Anyway,
So Stanley, the tool company, has no relationship to the thermos company. Wow, I didn't even know that. Okay.
well, I don't
I
know.
thought that was the
That's it.
thermoses that the tool company made. But anyway, go ahead.
Research for another point in time.
I
Okay,
thought
yes.
Stanley was a carpet cleaner because
Oh, please don't give this topic any more life, Jane. Please, I'm already having a hard enough time. I was the focus of attention. I'd like to maintain that at least for as long as I've given it.
So
Okay.
Jerry, how much you accept the role that Stanley plays in different people's lives?
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. So there we go. So now you're giving me a foothold. All right. I asked for it and now I get it. All right.
Okay,
So,
so what did you get? What was that foothold for you?
well, you were asking me how does acceptance play in my life? Like, I feel like, you know, I mean, it's funny because now we're drawing together a lot of connections here, but there's another famous through line that says acceptance is the answer to all my problems. So as far as it goes, I think resistance has to be a part of the discussion
How so?
because resistance is the flow of resignation. It's if you have like a body of water and more water is flowing towards more resistance in that flow is flowing towards resignation. I don't know. I'm creating a metaphor and I don't even know what I'm saying. But okay, let me just breathe a second here. If I'm not choosing to accept something, it's going to weaken me. If I'm not seeing how in the given moment I can embrace something, it's going to weaken me because it's like that what is. Like I was trying when Blair was saying what is a number of times earlier, I was trying to remember a quote that he had said in an earlier session about what is, like just accepting things as they are.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, am I on track with what you're asking or have I gone off on a tangent?
I see the commonalities. I'm curious how it's connecting for you, though. So
Right.
as it relates to acceptance, what I'm hearing is your perception of your choice to not accept things, your words weaken you, or maybe are ineffective, or could be less effective than if you were to accept what is, the things as they are, and then identify what then you might do about it. Am I tracking with what you're communicating?
Yeah, because I think of like acceptance and resistance, like what resists persists, that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I don't allow for the possibility of what's in front of me as being an opportunity, then I'm going to be yeah, I just keep thinking about like that I'm resisting it, and it's not. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm feeling like this is what I asked for, and now I'm here. So
All right. So when is resistance actually effective?
when it's protecting something.
To some degree, yes. What else? When else might resistance be effective?
There's a boundary, but that's also protecting something.
When it stops you from making continuous mistakes.
When it inhibits learning.
Exactly. when it stops from making, both of those are the same answers, just different
Right.
sides of the same coin. But that's sort of where I was going to with that. So resistance, nothing is necessarily always ineffective. It's not, I can't find things that are 100% of the time negative. And people say, well, what about murder? That's always bad. Well, yes, but under what circumstance? Like, what is the circumstance? And that's basically it.
Whoops. Why did that happen? I'm sorry.
That's okay. That was me just letting everybody share.
Oh, that was I was trying to close the chat feature so I could see everybody better. That's what happened for me. I don't know
Okay.
why. Sorry, go
No
ahead.
worries. Okay. So basically there are choices that we can make. And it's about gaining clarity over where we are. And, nothing is absolutely certain except we try and live in that certainty. So we need to gain clarity to know when things are effective for us and when things are no longer effective for us.
So is acceptance related to clarity versus certainty?
Yes, it is as well.
So
See, we have to make choice here. We have to choose things. And so some people choose to stay stuck. And we can accept that. It may not be effective, but we can accept that that's their choice and move forward in spite of that. So these are all choices. And, you can learn to accept yourself. And in some cases, self-acceptance holds us stuck because we accept things that are not true. I know for me, I lived in a stuck state for a very long time. In my youth, I was labeled as dyslexic and a moronic genius. I heard moron more than I heard genius. Took me a long time to go. I recalled both, but I lived in the moron side of me, not in the genius side of me until later on. And I figured out a strategy to work around that. But all of these things are, how can I just accept myself and keep it in flow?
Can
Yeah.
I? Yeah.
Share something.
Clarity. When you were accepting the moron part, or rather than resisting, whatever, that was more of when you were resisting, but when you came to acceptance that the genius part lived and you could move on from there. Did I say that?
Yeah, but for a very long time, I was
You were
accepting
resigned.
the moron side of me and being stuck.
So you were resigned to the moron side.
No, well, not exactly. I was labeled a moron, and as a result, I used it to hold myself stuck.
but wouldn't it be helpful to just agree with what Jane said to make the point? Because I'm now confused. Because if you weren't resigned, what is resignation?
Well, I didn't feel like I'd given up.
Ah, okay.
Okay, I didn't feel resigned to it. I felt stuck in it.
Okay. So you hadn't given up.
No, but I didn't know what to do next.
So you were between resignation and acceptance.
Yes, exactly. Well, no,
Okay.
in a large way, I was accepting my state of being stuck. That
I'll just
actually
interject
gives a
something here,
person
guys.
a sense of power, by the way. And that's what I used because I just held my power as being incomplete. and therefore it was okay. Okay, Patty, you were going to say something.
Yes, I'm going to say a couple things. So, when I look at the what is and the taking of responsibility, the what is then becomes the data that I have to use to become resourceful in whatever my new state is. I live a life that my what is can change multiple times in one day. And in order for me to be resourceful, I need to look at what is and just accept that that is it, that's going to be it. When I am not accepting, then I become frustrated because part of me is fighting to stay in the story, what has then become my story instead of what is real. So the lack of acceptance transitions me out of what is real into a reality that I create for myself. That when I can't control, what is are the things that are real that are out of your control. You need to deal with those things as facts. When I begin to deal with them as story and I'm fighting to stay in that story, I make myself stuck. I make myself ineffective. My emotions flame. There are all kinds of parts of that just go shoo, and it is wholly ineffective. But if I want to stay in a place where I can remain resourceful and effective, I need to start with accepting what is. And that is the path to resourcefulness. That's the path to effectiveness. The other is a path to story and frustration. So
I concur with you wholeheartedly.
thank you.
My past was me being stuck in the path of story.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where things cross into the issue of identity. Where do we get our sense of identity?
Exactly where I was going to go.
Do we get that from the names and labels other people give us?
Yep.
Or do we have a knowledge and understanding of who we are apart from our circumstances, apart from others, what is true about ourselves that just stays that way and lasts? If we take our sense of identity from circumstances or the behaviors of others, it's like that confidence versus self-confidence. We will never be stable. We will always be dependent on other people to define us. If we identify our own effective use of skills, attitudes, and behaviors, and if we identify the qualities that make up who we are uniquely as people, those things, they don't shift. Then you accept what is and you get resourceful and you move on. So
Let's
that's
put it this way. They don't necessarily, they shift from not serving you to serving you. Because that's what happened for me over time.
So
And
when you say they shift from not serving to serving, are you talking about the names and labels that people gave you?
yes, because the same thing, being named and labeled as a moronic genius, is a very different meaning in my life right now.
Okay.
I don't relate to the moron, although there are parts of me that are completely
Right.
not the smartest tool in the shed. However, there's a large part of me that is the sharpest tool in the shed, and I can do a lot with that information still and move forward. And recognizing to go towards the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, going towards the good as opposed to the negative, and the self-criticism, the anticipation that I was a bad person, and moving towards a better person and growing. That's transformative. So anyway, just thought I'd share.
50. Oh, we lost Leslie. We lost Leslie. Jeremy, you needed to leave at 10. Do you wish to give us your wrap up before you leave?
Well, I feel like I belong here more than I ever have. I feel like at home in a sense. I don't feel like I'm where I want to be with the mind models, but I also accept that, that's my process and that'll happen when it happens. So as far as giving a rating for tonight, I have to confess I'm a little bit preoccupied with the Australian Open Grand Slam for tennis, so I've been paying attention to that. Um, but I have been giving as much of my attention to this discussion as I can as well. So I'm going to give myself a 7 because I know I could do better, and I'm continuing to work at this. So thank you for asking.
Wonderful. I'm very pleased that you've chosen to give us a long haul. So we enjoy having you with us. Enjoy the Australian Open.
Jane.
I got to get to another meeting as well. So
Okay, go.
do you mind if I share my quick wrap up?
Please do.
Yeah. Full page of notes again. I love showing up and being here. Back to the Tim and Becky question a while ago about the like the marriage thing. When Christy and I first started doing Blair, the why question was we just didn't know any better. And it's, well, why and why, how judgmental and how accusatory that question is. And then it's taken some time. We still slip up and do it. Don't get me wrong, but we really work on trying not to say the why. But then I had to accept that Christy had to take the time in some of those arguments to name and label her own feelings.
Yep.
And she couldn't just like, well, I have a feeling and just spit it out. She had to take the time to process and then name and label, and then we could move the conversation forward as well. So that took some learning, but since then, I mean, I've lived a blessed life. I'm gonna say it and say it and say it that I married up. Like, I've been so blessed by Christy. It it's we've had a good life together, but even after Blair, we've continued to grow and are happier probably now than we were when we were young and wild and all that good stuff. But the question early about the something that is hindering your progress, that is out of your control. I have something that's maybe hindering my progress, but I don't think it's out of my control. I just don't know how to fix it. And that's my confidence in my own self-belief, my own self-doubt. And then I self-criticize that Blair just said. And I seem like I'm willing to accept the same crappy results that I got as before. So I'm reliving my past as at now. And I need to figure out how to get past that bridge from those are old results. This is the results I want for this year. I signed up for Blair's meetings next week.
Excellent.
And I even did VIP. I don't know if you've got that notification yet.
Yeah, I did. I saw that. Thank you.
And what's $47 Canadian? I mean, is that like $20 in US, or do I gotta check my bank account for that? Or
Yeah, really, it's going to break the freaking bank. Might
well,
just be a quarter.
once Trump,
probably a quarter US.
Well, it also
What-
gets
what-
you replay.
once Trump makes you guys the 51st state, it'll all be the same currency anyway.
That's right. It won't matter because they'll bring us over even Steven. There you go.
I've given it a 9 for tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Give our best to Christy.
Will do.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I feel disappointed Leslie had to take off so quickly. We didn't get to hear from him. Is everybody okay if we just continue with the wrap up at this point?
I think it's appropriate. Jeremy.
Yes.
You're waving.
I wanted to officially say goodnight because I wanted to hear what Shane had to say, and I wanted to leave at an
Okay.
appropriate time. So
All right. Good night,
thank
Jay.
you all.
Glad to have you with us.
Really quick,
Bye-bye.
thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate your thoughts tonight. Really do. You brought so much to the conversation. Thank you, Jeremy.
I appreciate hearing that very much. Thank you. Be well.
You too.
Bye-bye. See you next week.
I accept that.
Yay!
Love it.
Well done. Well done.
Yep.
Jane, would you like to give us your wrap up? Oh, did we just lose Brent too? Oh no, there you are.
No.
Everybody shifts
Just
when
moved.
somebody
Yeah, I know.
leaves. It's like, whoa. Anyway, yeah, Jane, would you like to give us your wrap up tonight?
I think that this was really timely for me. Understanding, that there have been several things throughout my life that I can look back on and say, accept, 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 accept. And then I can see the ones that have just kind of resigned to it in long suffering. And it gives me a moment to take a second look at it and to evaluate some more, including, my progress. Little bit is still progress, even if it's just a little bit. And to give myself credit for those little bits, especially when I'm not feeling 100% and whatnot. And so, yeah, it was, I really enjoyed it. So I'm giving it a 9.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Sure.
Jane. Shannon, did you want to participate in wrap up tonight?
Oh, sorry, that's super dark. That's all right. I'll just keep talking and you know what I look like. Probably remember me better than I look right now. The conversation around acceptance and resignation was really interesting to me. And I appreciated both how Brent and Jeremy, like the language they used around that was really thought-provoking. And acceptance is something over the years that I've let sink in and gradually kind of notice ways to weave it into everyday life and when I'm fighting it and when I'm not. And there are moments I was noticing just to have another word to bring when you're fatigued, because I liked the contrast. Sometimes we'll talk about leaning into something and leaning away from it. And I feel like resignation is a little bit of a pulling away, and acceptance is a leaning in. And there are some times when things stack up so much that you get a little burnt out from leaning in and you have lean in fatigue. And it's like, I need to practice accepting one more thing right now. So some of that, it was just interesting to think about the difference between what I know in my head and the skills that we practice and we cultivate to do them, but that there is a cost to making effective choices. And it just to acknowledge that sometimes when you're working so hard at something and you're attempting to be effective, but you're tired, that's fair. So I thought it was really, I don't know, it gave me some new language to sit with and to think around those things. I also really appreciated, Becky, the questions you brought in early on about just what parts of this can I control. I know that's a question we've talked about before, but it is never less poignant. It's never less helpful, because you can get swept away into thinking that there's so much about something you can't, because those things are just louder. The things you can't control are louder. And to make the choice and to look at the different facets of it and to formulate a process for it. So that stuff, I think, was the things that jumped out the most to me for going forward. I think looking at my own, just how I'm wired, it's easier for me to pick out gaps in a process than it is to look at the parts of a process that are working and to think about, not just what parts of this can I control, but what parts of this are actually working. because within everything that has something that's not working, there's always things that are. And so I think that was just something to remind myself about, just given how I'm wired. I like to find gaps and I like to, it's a puzzle to my head, and to remember that it's good to use that skill when it's appropriate to time and place, but to also remember to practice looking for the things that do work, and to keep that part, positive and a little bit more bright and light. So, but it's wonderful to see you all. And I think an 8 for me tonight.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Brent, would you like to participate and wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I'll participate. Uh, the thing with the acceptance, it got me thinking, was that it helps. Like for me, it helps, waste my time anymore, like judging myself or beating myself up. There are times like I'll do a little bit, but it's not as much as it used to be. So my energy there isn't wasted on focusing on things that aren't effective, or things I should have done, judging myself on things. So my energy is not wasted on that. My focus isn't on that. So my focus can be on things that I want, rather than things that were working, or things I don't want. So using that to allow you to put your energy and focus into those things that you want to get towards. So that was the one thing I picked up. I was thinking about that today while we were going over that. But I did like the resignation piece. So like with Jeremy and I, it's like I had a little bit one side and he had another side to it. So it was a little bit extra, so I like that.
It was really valuable that it
yeah,
was faceted like that. You gave different
yeah,
sides of the same coin.
yeah. Like it was like a complete, almost like it get more of a complete view on the two. Yeah. So I would say it an 8 for me tonight.
Great. Thank you, Brent.
You're welcome.
Tim, would you like to give your wrap up?
I would love to. Thank you, Patty. I absolutely love acceptance, choice. Those two, they truly are a superpower. The one thing that I learned early on, especially with what Becky and I have been through with the loss of our girls and some other things that we have been through over these last few years, is it really comes back to acceptance and choice. Acceptance and choice are a superpower. And if we can truly accept what is for what it is, without judgment, without anything else, it's just what is, then we can choose how we want to move forward. And so those two concepts are truly powerful. And the other thing to understand here is that acceptance isn't everything. There is a level of acceptance in everything, and there is also choice in everything. So one of the biggest things that has moved us forward and was just understanding acceptance and choice and how we want to interplay with that. Becky put earlier in the chat an effective process question of it is and it is. What might I do about it? If any of you follow me on Facebook, that is in my bio, because that is what I live by. It is and it is. What might I do about it? That is acceptance at its core and choice. And it's been my mantra since I heard it from day one with Blair. So I love this topic. And I really appreciated, basically everybody said it tonight. And I heard it from Brent. I heard it from Jeremy. I've heard it. I think everybody alluded to it that, there is just that power about acceptance when you truly look at it as that power and possibility, you can move forward. And so I can get passionate about acceptance and choice, and it's just a little bit, yeah. So anyway, it's a 9.5 for me.
Thank you. Leslie, you disappeared for a little bit and now you're back. Would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yeah, yes. I don't know what happened, if it was my internet or some other internet. I guess it was my, yeah.
Yeah, I'm without a phone, so technical stuff is beyond me.
Yeah. I started making notes here in absence for a presumptive wrap up to start the next meeting if it had died for everybody.
No, just you. Sorry, it's there, but you're back.
I came back.
Yes, you did.
You did.
I'm glad for it.
I'm giving tonight a 9.5. What before I lost the internet connection, I was just finding it all very, very positive, and it was highlighting what happened earlier today for me in with events that yeah, I really was not in a good spot. Um, I was able to realize that I needed some help, and it was technical help that I needed, and I knew somebody that I could reach out to. I knew a couple people that I could reach out to, and one was available, one was not. And that person worked with me for an hour, and we got through the technical issues.
Perfect.
And I really appreciate that. And now I look forward to being able to put what was resolved today into action tomorrow.
Mhm.
Excellent.
So yeah, I accepted what was put before me.
Yeah.
And I choose
You got resourceful.
to put it to use.
Yes, you got resourceful too.
Yep.
Which made your acceptance effective.
And yeah, it was. I guess another thing that, and it goes back to this whole learning these mind models, is that, yeah, I was a basket case, but I was able to stop myself and work through what needed to be done in a very short period of time.
Excellent.
Uh, uh, there was a time not so long ago where I would not have been able to do that.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you, Blair. Thank you, mind models.
Yes, always saying my models compress time. You know, they don't stop the hard things from happening, but we move through them so much faster.
Absolutely.
So true.
Blair, would you like to give your wrap up?
Yes, I would. First off, tonight is a 9. Thank you. You know what? I'm liking not leading at all the time, jumping in and interspersing. I'm liking that a lot. It gives me a perspective that I haven't been able to indulge for maybe before. Well, here, life skills I was able to, but here I've got Tim and Becky and Patty now at the point where they're managing virtually all of the call or all of the episode without me needing to worry about it or overly monitoring everything. And I let my mind wander and explore. And tonight I was able to discover a little bit more about me accepting me as me, which is, I'm a guy that was beat up as a kid, abused, and worked through that for the most part. There's elements of that linger in me. My ego isn't overly large, although some people think that it is. I know that, I worry about things that I don't need to, but I minimize that because I also know 97% of everything I worry about is not likely going to happen. So I minimize it. It doesn't stop it, but it shortens the time frame. Like you just said, Patty, it compresses it. And sometimes down to next to 0. And I love that because it gets me through things. Oh, right. Yeah, well, no, I don't need to worry about that. Like my brain thinks, oh, I could worry about that, but I don't need to.
Mhm.
And it's starting to build trust in oneself based on evidence, externally verifiable evidence of not all the bad stuff happens to me all the time.
Mhm.
So test, see what works. And yeah, it's wonderful. I am so looking forward to doing this 5-day business challenge that's coming up. And I've got 2 Shanes now, and Daniels just made the signed up and is now the 10th individual in the VIP group, which is awesome. So I go, wow, that's huge. So anyway, that's about it for me. Acceptance, what is, all of that stuff, so
Did you
critical.
give me your number yet?
I did 9. I started
Okay,
off
9.
at
Okay.
9.
Real good. It was a 9 for me tonight. I really enjoyed the discussion and, found Tim and Becky to do a really effective job tonight.
Mm.
So, Becky, I'm going to hand it to you, and if you could give us your wrap up and then take us out.
Yes. 9.25 for me. Acceptance is near and dear to my heart. And, when you learn the art and the skill, develop the skill of identifying what is, and then can put it to use, it really does, speed of recovery and speed of transition in life, in those bumpy moments of life, is a very real thing. It's powerful.
Mhm.
And it's leverageable in every part of your life. It's not only just for over here or over here. It's not something that you have to reserve for only one segment of life. It is utilizable. I'm getting tongue tied tonight already. And it's a very humbling thing, and a super amount of gratitude for Blair for simplifying constructs and teaching us these things that allow us to be more effective in our own lives, and the ripple effect of that by us choosing to accept our roles and then acting accordingly, the impact and the influence that we make in our circles of influence. I don't think that we can realize, but it is significant. And so it tying back to identity and what one person can do when they're being on purpose and intentional can do incredible things, which I think is, again, Blair, thank you so much for this and for what it allows us to do in our worlds. With that, I said my number, right? 9.25. Again, just to recap, Blair's got his 5-day business challenge coming up January 20th to 4th. And that is from 10 a.m. Mountain or 11 Eastern. If you've signed up for the VIP, there is an option for that will go concurrently from 11 a.m. Mountain or 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you have an opportunity, make sure you go to rewiringthemind.com/challenge-sign up so you can get access to 2 hours of training with Blair, help you get great traction with where you're at moving forward. And again, also put on your calendar, if you're interested in getting more in-depth training, Mind Model Method Coach training is February 12th through 15th, February 26th, second session, February 26th through March 1st, and then IBC, which is Igniting the Buying Conversation, March 12th through 14th, and the 19th through 21st. If you want more information on how to gain access to those programs, join the coaching series, the 5 days, he'll be able to give you more information on how you can get into those programs, or you can even email him directly. And finally, but without further ado, study guide notes. You guys, if you've been following along on YouTube and here, and you want a deeper dive on the concepts that we're covering and want to be able to take away the tidbits and reread or re-listen to things that are applicable in your own world, make sure that you sign up for Blair's study guide insider notes. You're going to get all historical and ongoing notes from episode 318 moving forward. The price for that is $25 a month or $300 a year. Definitely worth the investment so that you can become more effective in the areas in your life where you want to see growth. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We meet on Tuesdays. So please make sure to share with friends. If you or others that you know might benefit from learning the mind models, please invite them. We'd love to have them join us. And we'll catch you guys all next week. Take care, guys.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm just going to, if somebody wants to join here is the sign up last second here. Copy and paste it if you're here, and it is just another rewiringthemind.com/challenge-sign up. And that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
Alright.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey,
See you guys
Night.
next
good night.
Okay, take
Bye.
care. Good night.